Morning and welcome back to Sports Today. We bring you this video segment every morning to help you catch up with things that have been taking place in the world of sport whilst you were catching up on some all important sleep. Because let's face it, whilst the whole world needs sleep, the world of sport doesn't really need or doesn't in fact ever sleep. There's always something or the other going on, and it can be a little tough to keep a track on every single happening that is taking place in the world of sport. But worry not, that's why we're here. That's what we're going to get you caught up on this wonderful Monday morning. So, without further ado, let's get straight to it, and let's first talk about the match that took place last night between Pakistan and Ireland. Yes, Pakistan ended up winning by a pretty convincing margin thanks to half centuries from Fakhar Zaman and Mohammad Rizwan. But let's focus more on Rizwan because yesterday he ended up doing something that up until this point only one other player in international T20 cricket has done, that is to achieve an average of over 50 as far as his career is concerned. Now, who's the other player to have done that? Virat Kohli. So, Rizwan has essentially matched Kohli as a T20I batter when it comes to the average metric. And speaking after the match, did say very clearly that there is a lot that they've learned from Kohli himself. He said that, everyone in the team respects Virat Kohli and there is so much that we have learned from him. What exactly those things were was not something he, let's say, shedded too much light on. But it was also interesting to see that it was brought up, and of course, the fact that he then acknowledged it in such a positive manner. Now, speaking of positivity, there's not a lot of that going around the Mumbai Indians camp. In fact, it's safe to say that they look like a team in disarray, and of course, there have been mumblings of unhappiness, of dressing room splits, and that is also unfortunately reflected in their cricket more often than not. In fact, the way they performed in their last game against the Kolkata Knight Riders raised a lot of questions on some of their star batters, including Rohit Sharma and Suryakumar Yadav. And former India opener Virender Sehwag did not hold back when it came to talking about MI's struggles that they've been having. In fact, this is what he said. He said that you could be Rohit Sharma or Suryakumar Yadav, but at least respect the delivery in front of you if you can't respect the bowler. The ball at which Rohit Sharma got out wasn't a bad ball by any stretch. And no doubt Rohit and Suryakumar are great players, but that doesn't mean you should hit the good deliveries too. And that in itself speaks to a rather muddled kind of approach that has come about in the MI camp. And particularly with Rohit, it's doubly concerning because there were already question marks over how good a T20I player he would be for India. And he's a sure shot starter given that he's the captain, but his recent form has been pretty ordinary to say the least. And if this sort of form continues, then of course there's really going to be a lot of question marks as to where he bats. In fact, you can check out on our channel, we've done a video where we've debated, what exactly India's opening combination for the T20 World Cup should be. Check that out later on when you have the chance. Right now, back to some news. And speaking of a camp where there's a lot of negativity, switching to one where there has been a lot of positivity, Royal Challengers Bangalore. Now, they've won 5 games on the trot to actually keep themselves somehow alive in playoff contention. And one of the reasons for that is, according to Yash Dayal, their pacer, a positive kind of a change that's taking place. In fact, what exactly he said at the post-match press conference that there's been a positive change as far as our form, but even when we were losing, no one was pointing anyone's name out. This supportive atmosphere, coupled with a newfound aggressive approach, seems to be a winning formula for us at RCB. And I have to agree with most of what he said. Yes, the batters were showing plenty of aggression, but previously the bowling attack looked toothless. Now the bowlers are being more aggressive, and there's been a couple of games on the trot now where they have managed to bowl out the opposition, which is always a good sign for a bowling unit. And the fact that if you believe Yash Dayal, where he says that there's not been any finger pointing and you've tried to be together even when results weren't going their way, has really worked out in RCB's favor. Whether or not RCB make it to the playoffs at this point is debatable, but the form that they've shown in the second half of the season has very much been commendable. And switching focus now to the other game that took place yesterday, it was between, of course, RR and CSK, and there was a rather controversial moment regarding Ravindra Jadeja being given out for obstructing the field. Now, he was given out, and that was that, but he wasn't very happy about it. And a lot of people were waiting to hear what it is that CSK would have to say about that particular dismissal. Well, you got to hear from one of their members of the coaching staff, Michael Hussey, who came to the post-match press conference, and he had a pretty subtle take on it. He said that I didn't look closely at it, but he did try to turn around, so changed his angle a bit, but he didn't change his angle while running straight. That being said, I can see both sides of the story. I understand the umpire making the decision because the rule says you cannot change your line. So maybe it was a fair call. He has pretty much defended his player, saying that listen, he did change his trajectory a little bit, but when he was running towards the wicket, it was a straight line. He didn't really change direction there. But given that he changed his direction entirely, maybe that is against the rule. So maybe that's why he was given out. So not a lot to be said there. And to be fair, I didn't expect much of a fuss to be kicked up about this because it was a pretty legitimate dismissal in my eyes. And I think I'd have been rather surprised if CSK took offense to this, especially when you consider it didn't really impact the result of the match anyway. Switching focus now from the world of cricket, let's go to the world of football. And we discussed yesterday that Manchester United ended up losing 1-0 to Arsenal. Now, this is a pretty bad result for United. When have you heard that before this season? But what it also means is it puts there any hopes they may have of qualifying for any form of European football, whether that be the Europa League or the Conference League, on ice. Right now they're in 8th position, and if they are to win, then they'll need to be winning their last two games, whilst hoping that Newcastle and Chelsea, who are the other two, let's say, competitors for those spots, drop points. Now, the unfortunate thing is that Newcastle and Manchester United will be playing each other next up. So what that means is that one of them was definitely going to be knocking the other out of the race. Even if they just draw points and Chelsea win, then Chelsea are in a much better position than those two. Of course, United do have another way of making it to Europe if they so please. They just have to win the FA Cup title and beat Manchester City. But that happening seems rather unlikely at this point. So let's just focus on what it is that they can control. As for what the win does for Arsenal, keeps their destiny as far as possible in their own hands. Right now, they have just one more game left in this particular season, or they have, sorry, a couple more games left this season, and all they really need to do as far as those games are concerned is, well, end up getting the win. Anything more than that, and there's nothing else they can do. If they lose points, if they drop points, won't be good. But if they win, they'll also have to hope that City end up dropping points either to Tottenham Hotspur or West Ham, because if City win their next two games, then they're champions no matter what it is that Arsenal end up doing. More football news, and Kylian Mbappe, we know he had announced in a video that he'd be leaving PSG at the end of the season, and well, his final home game for Paris Saint-Germain against Toulouse ended up in a rather, let's say, damp manner, let's say, because well, they ended up losing 3-1. Yes, Mbappe got on the score sheet, but that didn't really matter when they ended up losing the game. Of course, they were handed over the league trophy as well, so the loss didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But I'm pretty sure Mbappe would have wanted a better farewell in front of his home PSG fans than the one he ended up getting. More football news, and Bayer Leverkusen are one of those teams that a lot of people have their eyes on, because of course they broke the Bundesliga. They broke the Bundesliga hegemony of Bayern Munich. They won the Bundesliga, and right now, yesterday, they ended up beating Bochum, which is noteworthy. Not so much because they end up winning a lot of games, or not losing anyway, but their win over Bochum ended up being their 50th straight game where they have gone undefeated. So their stretch of, let's say, unbeaten games is now stretched to 50, which is pretty great no matter which way you look at it. I mean, it's a good run for them. And what's even more amazing is that Bochum were actually the last team to inflict a defeat on the Bundesliga champions. So it was a nice way of showing how far it is that they've come since that particular defeat. Couple more news, and one shocking bit of news from the world of tennis. Novak Djokovic is out of the Italian Open because Chile's Alejandro Tabilo ended up claiming what would be considered his biggest win of his career, because he beat Novak Djokovic 6-2, 6-3, straight sets. You heard that right. However, Djokovic himself admitted later on that he hadn't been feeling at his best, and in fact, there was an incident where he was hit in the head by a water bottle, a stray water bottle that was accidentally dropped by someone in the crowd. And he said afterwards that, I had not been feeling great. There was nausea, dizziness, vomiting, there was a bit of bleeding, which then raises the question as to why it is he was playing, because everything he describes seemed to be concussion symptoms, and despite the fact that he had concussion symptoms, he went ahead and played. That's a bit reckless. No wonder he ended up losing as easily as he did. Last bit of news, and this one with a bit of an Indian context. The wrestling trials for the Indian wrestlers and the Olympic quotas will be taking place. We now have a date. It is, in fact, on June 10th. Right now, a lot of these wrestlers are, training abroad, and they're getting their final bits of training in before the Olympics. But we now know that June 10th will be the date when the trials take place, and the WFI president has confirmed that. In fact, he also said that Vinesh Fogart, who you remember has picked up quotas or has won quotas in two weight categories, the 50 kgs and the 53 kgs. They said, now simple, she must pick one. So whichever it is that she picks, then that will be the one that she will be competing in as far as the trials are concerned. So it'll be interesting to see how exactly that goes, because again, wrestling has been one sport that has been mired in a lot of controversy, but in which we do have a good number of quotas as well. So we'll see how that goes. Still just about a little under a month away though. That's it from us in this edition of the Morning Wrap. Thank you guys so much for joining us. As always, if you enjoy our work, please don't forget, like, share, subscribe, tap that bell, leave us a comment, follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Don't forget to download the SportsTech app, and if you're already on the channel, well, go ahead, check out some other videos we posted, and stay tuned. Plenty more coming your way. For now, from my side, it's goodbye.